like to welcome you to another installment of Tiza Talks for the telencephalon. So today we're talking about cranial nerves. There are many videos of cranial nerves out there on the internet. This video will focus on a few different aspects of those. So by the end of this video, I would be happy if everyone had an idea what it was. So cranial nerves emerge from the brain or brainstem. That helps to define what a cranial nerve is. The second aspect I want everybody to pay attention to is that these cranial nerves start in cranial nerve nuclei. There are a lot of different cranial nerve nuclei throughout the brain, and we will focus on 2 of them today. However, there are many more. A third thing is that each of these cranial nerves have a different modality. So sometimes they carry sensory information, sometimes it's motor, and sometimes they carry both types of information. It's important to kind of grasp this because it helps you as you delve deeper into the learning about cranial nerves later on. A fourth thing that's very important is that these cranial nerves are clinically relevant. There are so many tests that we do to check these, but they give us an insight and a window into the brain, helping us understand if there's any inflammation that's focal, if there's any compression or infarct, and they help us to identify these things and are very helpful. So pay attention to that as you're learning about these cranial nerves. It will come in great help later on. So cranial nerves. What are cranial nerves? Well, first of all, we abbreviate by CN. There's normally 12 of them. Sometimes people say 13, but for our intents, we're going to go for 12, and we use Roman numerals to identify these. So here's our Roman numerals. I'm going to write these down here on the left side of the screen. We'll go 1 through 12. Like I said, the first one here we'll name, it is called the olfactory nerve. The olfactory nerve helps you to smell. It's cranial nerve 1. Next one is the optic nerve. That goes from your brain, helps you to see, goes right to your eye. Third one, ocular motor. Does exactly what it says, helps your eyes move. Fourth one is called the trochlear nerve. Trochlear nerve. This one is also called the polynerve from the Greek root, and it helps your eyes move as well. There's a little pulley that it moves off of. The fifth one is the trigeminal nerve, Greek for triplet. That's facial sensation. Sixth one there, abducens. This one helps you to move your eyes as well. Seventh, facial, the most complicated, is facial sensation. 8, vestibular cochlear, that helps you to hear. You have 9, which is glossopharyngeal. 10, vagus, both of those help you to swallow and more. 11 is your spinal accessory nerve. Sometimes people call it spinal. And the 12th is hypoglossal nerve. So a great mnemonic for this is O, to touch and feel very good velvet, such heaven. So that helps us as we go through our nerves. We start with O, olfactory, optic, ocular, motor, trochlear, trigeminal, abducens, facial, vestibular, cochlear, glossopharyngeal, vagus, spinal, and hypoglossal. There are 12 of these nerves. It's important to learn all of our names. It's important to be very familiar with what number they are and understand that they all act independently most of the time. So 12 nerves here. Pay attention to them. Take the time to memorize them and take the time to delve down a little deeper. We will gloss over a few things here, but each of these nerves could have their own independent video or semester of college class. So, first one, sensory. Optic is also sensory. Think about that. You're smelling things, you're seeing things. So they're both senses. Now, third one. This is a motor nerve. Easy by its name. Ocular motor. That helps move your eyes. Trochlear, once again, it's Greek for pulley. So easy to remember that pulley means a motor nerve. Trigeminal. This is what people think about trigeminal neuralgia. This is a sensory nerve of the face generally. However, it does have both sensory and motor function. We'll talk about both of those later. Abducens, this is once again motor. It's eye movement. Facial is both. Generally thought of motor, however, it does have some sensory. Vestibular cochlear, this is your ear one. This helps you hear. That's sensory as well. Glossopharyngeal, the main priority of this one is to help you to swallow, the upper muscles of swallowing. So, but it does have sensory as well. It helps on blood pressure. Vagus nerve as well as both. Spinal accessory is generally motor for your sternocleidomastoid and your trapezius. And hypoglossal is generally motor. So we're going to go down some of the acronyms here. My favorite one is, some say marry money, but my brother says big brains matter more. So this helps you remember: sensory, motor, both, sensory, both, motor. Oh, I got through it there. That took a little bit. So the nuclei that these come from is the olfactory bulb for the olfactory nerve. Easy to remember. It's right there in the front of the brain. Optic nerve, this comes from the lateral geniculate nucleus. That is right by the side of the thalamus. The other ones, we're going to focus on the area of the brain they come through. There are several nuclei that supply the neurons that run into these cranial nerves. The important coloring here that I've done is that 3 and 4 come from the midbrain. This is important because when we're thinking about areas of infarct, if we see malfunction in these nerves, it helps us see that there's a central cause of infarct. We can identify that that's probably coming from the midbrain, and we can correlate it with imaging and other findings to help paint a picture of what's happened to this person that's in front of us that has a malfunctioning 3 or 4 nerve. 5 through 8, this comes from the pons. Same thing. If there's a malfunction in these nerves, probably isolated in the pons is where your lesion's going to be. And the last ones here are from the medulla oblongata. And that same principle. Very important to remember that. So as you're answering these great test questions, remember that. So olfactory, smell. Optic nerve helps you see. Oculomotor moves your eyes. Trochlear moves your eyes again. Trigeminal, that helps your facial sensation. There's 3 areas, your V1, 2, and 3. We'll talk about that later. And then there's a little bit more there, right? We'll talk about that in a different video. Abducens moves your eyes. Facial, most of your facial muscles. Vestibular cochlear, that helps with your hearing. Glossopharyngeal, like I said, generally helps with swallowing. However, there's some blood pressure, sensory as well, and regulation of chemoreceptors, vagus as well. Spinal accessory is a trapezius and the sternocleidomastoid muscle. And hypoglossal helps you to move your tongue. If it weren't for cranial nerve 12, we would not be making this video. So these are the actions of it, and each of these things are important because they give us an idea if the nerve is being compressed, or if there's been an infarct in the nuclei or the nerve itself, or if there's infection such as VZV vasculitis or a shingles infection. That can also cause inflammation, which can make these nerves malfunction. So keep that in mind. I'm glad you were here watching this video. We're going to go over here to the recap screen. So number 1, what are cranial nerves? We wanted everybody to know this. They emerge from the brain or brain stem. So check on that one. Next one here is that they start in a cranial nerve nuclei. We talked about a couple of them, and then we talked about regions. Third one was they all have different modalities. Remember those, and then they all are clinically important. Remember their clinical importance as you're studying about these. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy this video. If you liked it, please feel free to subscribe and see these future videos. This is the first video in the series, and so there will be many to come. And thank you for your patience and bearing with me as I'm learning how to do some of these videos, but I'm pretty excited about what we have coming up in the future.